Got it.
Okay, so what we're doing here is we're taking the raw soil samples and we're putting them into two different vials. So this single sample is going to go into both a soil organic matter vial and an archive vial. So for every single sample, it's going to go into two different vials. So these have already been pre-processed, but they haven't been crushed enough. And so you might not have to do this for all samples, but we've picked out one example that we're going to need to crush it a little more. Okay, so you may not have been the one who did the pre-processing, so you should go ahead and give it a look over and make sure there's no major, there's always going to be a few roots, but while you have it out, just make sure that any big roots you see you pick out. Okay, so it looks relatively clean. Now the soil needs to be able to pass through a 2mm sieve. So like this soil is nice and fine, so that'll be just fine for our purposes. But this is too coarse. So if you do end up with a pre-processed sample like this, go ahead and just use a pestle, and you want to make sure you're not grinding because we don't want to actually alter the soil that much. So this is just to break it down and making the bigger pieces into littler pieces. So again, we don't want to be grinding it at this stage. We're just making sure everything is small enough to fit through a 2mm sieve. So, and ideally this is done in the first processing step, but you as the person who's filling the vials are the quality control. So if it hasn't been done in the pre-processing step, you need to do it in the processing step here. So the reason we need to get it fine is because we need to be able to homogenize the soil sample. So that means that any spoonful of soil that I take from this aggregate sample is the same as any other spoonful of sample that I take from this sample. So especially since we're going to be separating it into two different vials. Okay, you can cut.